Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. So, the devotee is thinking of Krishna and choosing a devotee who is very dear to Krishna in the same relationship to what has awakened in his own heart. Understanding, knowing that this is their relationship with Krishna, let's say in friendship or in parental love or in conjugal love, they are then following in the footsteps of a devotee in Vrindavan who is in that same relationship with the Lord. They meditate on the relationship of service between Krishna and this devotee, and they do not manifest this meditation externally. So externally, they do not show this, because if it's genuine, then it does not need to be publicized. If it's genuine, then the devotee has no reason to advertise it. Externally, they behave as a neophyte. How do they behave? Does that mean they are a neophyte devotee? No. Externally, they behave as a neophyte means externally they perform the same regulated principles that a Vaidhi sadhana, a regulated sort of new devotee performs. But internally, they're developing the relationship with Krishna. They engage in the specific angas of bhakti according to one's taste that help to develop the specific relationship one aspires for with the Lord. So there's so many angas of bhakti. We said how there's 64 different processes or practices by which we can serve the Lord. They engage specifically in the angas of bhakti that are very much in tune, or you could say very much aligned with their own particular mood of devotion. So let's say they've realized, just as an example, they've realized that their eternal relationship with the Lord is cooking for Krishna. As a gopi in Vrindavan, they're cooking for Krishna. That is their eternal service. So then in this world, they will select the angas of bhakti that are very close to that service. They may engage in cooking for the Lord and perfecting that art, offering the Lord different types of foodstuffs. There's one devotee in our movement like this, where close to the time when she was giving up her body, somehow we came to know. Again, it's never publicized, but other devotees said how she realized that her service was packing lunch for Krishna. When Krishna goes to the forest to tend the cows, he takes a little tiffin box. So she would pack the sandwiches for the Lord. And the interesting thing was, even before she came to that level of devotion, her service was packing the lunch for the Sankirtan devotees when they would go on book distribution in their vans. She had that service like for many, many years and did that very devoutly. So she was never distributed a book, was not a famous book distributor or anything like that. But she was engaged in that service. She was assisting in that service, and therefore she it was not by chance that she got that service. Therefore, she was liberated by her unalloyed service. And that's the main thing. It doesn't matter how big of a title we have, but if we have unalloyed service, if we do unalloyed service to the Lord, Krishna is pleased. And as a result, one day she is packing the lunch for Krishna. So after realizing that, then she may further develop that mood of devotion by being very, very interested and focused on the processes of offering bhoga to the Lord. Similarly, another devotee may have their eternal relationship as fanning the Lord. Their service is to stand next to the Lord and fan them, right? So in this world, then they may be very much interested or engaged in the archana process, and they may find great ecstasy in doing arti for the Lord. So like this, once a devotee recognizes or realizes their eternal relationship, they will engage specifically in the angas of bhakti, in all angas, but specifically in the angas of bhakti that are related with their mood and taste, that help develop and inspire their internal sentiments. Gradually, one will develop the internal sentiments of the devotee one is following. There's two types of bodies, the physical body and the siddha body. The physical body is the one that we have, that we're aware of, that we are working in. And the siddha body is the eternal spiritual form of the Lord that we all have. And the siddha body is the form of the soul, basically. It's the form of the soul within the heart. So one may wonder, how to develop, this body, how to understand this body. So on the stage of Raganuga, one is with his physical body conducting the 64 angas of bhakti, particularly focusing on what suits one's taste and relationship with the Lord. So one's performing the physical, the external services, just like one did before. One is performing 116 rounds, one is waking up in the morning for Mangalarati, one is worshipping the deity, one is engaged in the preaching work. The physical bodies are performing the activities of sadhana bhakti. And the internal, the spiritual body, is simultaneously performing. In the internal body, there's a simultaneous meditation and performance of the eternal activities of the spiritual form. So in meditation, one is serving the Lord as a mother, as a friend, as a lover, and that is going on with the other angas of bhakti performed externally. So we have these two bodies, and the devotee, as they advance, their relationship with the physical body starts to reduce more and more. It becomes loosened. And the relationship with the internal spiritual body becomes stronger and stronger. The realization of the internal spiritual body becomes more and more. There are two types of practices in this sadhana bhakti. One is kamanuga, or devotion in the conjugal mood. And the second is sambandhanuga, that aspires for one of the other rasas. So if one is in raganuga and is aspiring for madhurya ras, that is called kamanuga, devotion in the conjugal mood. And if one is aspiring for any other rasa, that is called sambandhanuga. Such aspiration does not depend on the current body, male or female. Examples are given of males who aspire to be Krishna's gopis, and women can aspire to be cowherd boys. So I gave this example of the Mataji who was packing lunch for the devotees, and then she kept perfecting that service. Then she's packing lunch for Krishna. And she, you could say, was in the spiritual a gopi. In this world, she was also a lady. So that it was there, but that's not necessarily always the case. The sages who met Lord Ramachandra and who were in the Madhurya Ras, they wanted to become gopis to serve the Lord. They wanted to serve the Lord in a conjugal mood. And so Lord Ramachandra said that when I come next, then you will appear as gopis, and I will appear as Krishna, and you will serve me as gopis. You will relate with me as gopis. So they were sages in male bodies, but their aspiration was a conjugal mood with Krishna, and they took the female form. And this is because the male physical body is just temporary. It just so happens that we're in this physical material body, male or female. But our spiritual form, our spiritual relationship is far beyond and permanently some form that is natural to us. And regardless of the siddha body, the mood is always female, because Krishna is the only male. The mood always female, meaning the cowherd boys are male, they're fully male, but everyone in relationship with Krishna is described as female. In the sense, not the physical form, but in the sense that Krishna is the energetic and we are the energy. Krishna is the enjoyer, we are enjoyed. Krishna is the source of everything. So Krishna, therefore, in the spiritual world, is described as the Supreme Lord, and we are serving him in different ways, in a different form that is natural to us. So, so there's no limitation of the body, the physical body, in terms of who we can be in the spiritual world. There's also male devotees who are always cooking for Krishna. Their service is the Sunday feast or whatnot. And they may realize that, oh, that actually in the spiritual world, this is their service, but their form is one of the, the maid servants of the gopis. So like this, we are aspiring to be the servant of the servant of the servant. The devotee never thinks that they can be a gopi. To be a gopi is a very, very elevated position. Rather, Lord Chaitanya says that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. Gopi, Bharatara, Das, Das, Anudas. So we are the servant of the servant of the gopis. And that servant role may be in a male form or a female form. Now, furthermore, within this Kamanuga, one can be a gopi or one can be one of the wives of Krishna in Dwaraka. So which one are we? Riram sam sushtukurvanyo vidhi margena sevate kevalenaiva sat tada mahishitvam iyatpure. A person who serves on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti with a desire for a conjugal relationship with the Lord and a high position, but without desire for the gopis type of love, after some time becomes a queen in Dwarka. So, if one is serving in Vaidhi Bhakti, again, the regulated practice of devotional service, and one desires to serve the Lord in a conjugal mood, but does not follow in the footsteps of the gopis, one does not develop the mood of the gopis, then that person will become a queen in Dwarka, because that's the natural, only other alternative in the conjugal mood. So what does it mean that we need to follow in the footsteps of the gopis if we want to become a gopi? That means giving up all sense of, all sense of, you could say, all sense of formalities of, all, the word I'm looking for is, kind of like the formalities of wanting opulence and giving up the opulent position. If we want to become a gopi of Vrindavan, we must learn how to make patties with cow dung, how to milk the cows, how to churn butter. So serving Krishna, but in the mood, in a very simple mood, in the mood of pure spontaneous love. And we see in Krishna's pastime that even once Lakshmi Devi wanted to become one of the gopis of Vrindavan, because the position of the gopis is so exalted. Yet she could not, because she was not willing to give up her exalted position as Lakshmi, which is natural, that is her rasa. So that's not anything less. But the point is that she was used to living in a palace and serving Lord Vishnu with great awe and reverence. But the mood of the gopis is one of spontaneous attraction to Krishna, just in a very simple village of Vrindavan in the cowherd forest. Although that Vrindavan, we must know, is more beautiful than all the Vaikunthas. Vrindavan is is studded with gemstones everywhere. In the Govardhan, every stone is as beautiful as a diamond. But still, Krishna's a cowherd boy. Everyone is the gopis are more beautiful than the queens of Dwarka. They're the most beautiful women in the world. But still, the mood is one of intimacy, no on reverence, no you could say kingly mood. So there's two types of kamanuga, raganuga in Madhurya Bhav. So remember, this is Raganuga Bhakti and it's Kamanuga, Raganuga, and it's in Madhurya Bhav or conjugal love. So what are these two types? Sambhoge Cha Mayi Bhakti is characterized by enjoying conjugally with Krishna. And Tad Bhave Chatmika Bhakti is characterized by desiring the sweet mood of love of the Kama Rupa Siddha devotees. That is, those who relish the conjugal loving affairs of the Lord. So within this Madhurya Bhav are two types of devotees. One are the devotees who are actually enjoying with Krishna in the conjugal relationship, like the gopis of Vrindavan, the queens of Dwarka. And the second type is, those who are relishing the conjugal affairs of the Lord by relishing the mood in which it is, but they are not directly dancing with the Lord and having the conjugal relationship. And they're both in Madhurya Bhav. They're both equally exalted, but their mood is different. So the first example I said was for the first one, I said the example was the gopis. For the second one, the example is the manjaris. They are not directly interacting with the Lord in the conjugal mood, but rather they are the assistants of the gopis. They are making so many arrangements for Krishna's conjugal pastimes. They are making the flower garlands. They are cooking the foodstuffs that you see Radha and Krishna enjoying. They're decorating the kunjas of Vrindavan. So they're the most beautiful places. They're making the sitting places. They are singing about the conjugal pastimes of the Lord. They're remembering those conjugal pastimes. They're meditating about Krishna's conjugal pastimes. So they're constantly relishing the sweet mood of love of the Kama Rupa Siddha devotees. That is the first type of devotees, those who are actually engaged in that relationship. So therefore, you see many devotees, they're fully absorbed in that conjugal mood, though they may not actually be there dancing with Krishna. And the Goswamis of Vrindavan, the majority of them were manjaris. The manjaris sometimes have even more access to these conjugal pastimes than the gopis do. Because when Radha and Krishna are having their very divine, sweet pastimes, then sometimes the gopis are not allowed because it's just Radha and Krishna. But the manjaris, they can go there and they can still see everything. They can still witness their pastimes because they are taking all the paraphernalia for service, right? They're the maid servants. So they're offering the sweets to the Lord. They're offering eatables. So this is why the Goswamis were actually manjaris, or the manjaris became the Goswamis, because their knowledge of Krishna's intimate pastimes is sometimes even greater than the gopis' knowledge. You see, the manjaris are very small girls, like 5-year-old girls. You see, this is why it's all spiritual. The gopis are, they are not young women with you could say lusty desires. They are just children who have no lust in their heart, but they're loving Krishna in the conjugal mood because it's on the pure love, on the platform of pure love. So the manjaris, they're very small, they're very young. So, a small child can come anywhere. The small child has no inhibition. There's no inhibition in the heart of a small child. There's no, or no one else feels inhibited if a small child comes in because they're a child. So the manjaris, they have that form, they have that mood. And therefore, in the most exalted level of love, these devotees are very, very exalted. We tend to compare them to our own mundane experience. So therefore, we describe them as different ways. But we have to understand the greatest devotees get this position. And their heart is fully purified. There's not a tinge of lust. It's all spiritual, very selfless, divine love. And so these manjaris, they are very, very exalted devotees who are able to witness everything. So what are other forms of raganuga? So we talked about the kamanuga devotees. How about the sambandhanuga devotees? And Rupa Goswami writes, Lubdhair vatsalya sakhyadau bhaktir karyatra sadhakai Rajendra Subaladinam Bhava Cheshtita Mudraya. Practicing devotees greedy for parental, friendly, or servant relationships perform this bhakti with indications of the behavior and mood of Nanda, the parent, the father of Krishna, Subala, the friend, and others. So, not everyone is attracted to the Madhurya Bhav. So those who are attracted to serving Krishna as a friend, as a parent, they emulate and respect and serve these great associates, these great eternal associates of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says in this point, I think comes later also, that a devotee never directly wants to be Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj or Srimati Radharani. That is not a proper desire. But a devotee wants to develop the mood of parental love as taught, as shown by Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, and serve Krishna in that same parental mood. So any resident of Vrindavan who is older in age, right, in these pastimes, of course they have a spiritual body, so it doesn't get old like time, but with time. But in their spiritual body is an elderly devotee. They are in the mood of parental love, because the focus of everyone in Vrindavan is Krishna. So if they're the age of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, then they are just thinking of Krishna like their son. They know it's Nanda Maharaj's son, but just like when we see a small child, we may give them some parental affection or the mood of Vatsalya Bhav, in the mood of a parent. Someone else's child is there, but we may give them a gift, a small toy, because they're a child. We may give them, sweets or whatnot. So in the same way, in Vrindavan, everyone, they have their own children, but their focus is Krishna. Their mood of love is, how can I serve Krishna? My children will go and play with Krishna. How can I arrange so that we can all, my children can play with Krishna nicely? So they're in that parental mood and they've developed that same bhava. It is better to aspire to follow in the footsteps of an exalted devotee and serve them than to want that position directly. For wanting the position directly can become impersonal. And this is the point that I was saying, and here it is. So there's a caution here. If we say that we want to be Nanda Maharaj, then that can be us wanting to become it's impersonal in the sense that we are wanting to become one now, not with the Lord, but one of his eternal associates. And that's not correct. That's not right. And then the next verse, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishna tad bhakta karunya matra labhai ka hetu ka pushti margataya kaischid iyam raga nugochate. The mercy of Krishna and his devotees is the only cause of attaining Raganuga Bhakti. Some call this type of devotion Pushti Marg. So the Sampradaya of Vallabhacharya is also called Pushti Marg, and this is the marg of receiving mercy. So we are all Pushti Margis. So we may do so much service to the Lord. We may do so much preaching and all these things, but ultimately we must know that we need the mercy of a devotee. And this is why the devotee is very, very humble in his overall demeanor, in his attitude, in his approach, because that's the most important principle. Because Raganuga Bhakti can only appear by the mercy of Krishna and his devotees. So mercy is what we want. The service helps us become qualified or eligible for that mercy. But the service itself does not get us the mercy. It helps us, but ultimately the mercy is only given by the devotee if we are suitable candidates, and we are a suitable candidate when we have that approach, the submissive approach. So we see here Srila Prabhupada, right? He's glowing so much in this image. He received mercy from his spiritual master. Therefore, he could do what he did. And similarly, his disciples were appealing for his mercy, because by his mercy, they can do very wonderful things. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 16. We ended with this point that ultimately the cause, if we want to get to the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, if we want to reach the stage from Vaidhi to Raganuga, we must act in such a way that the spiritual master, that Srila Prabhupada, that the devotee,
Can't hear. Definitely not.
Hare Krishna, I think he dropped Prabhuji. I think so. He's not there. Hare Krishna, we just received a message that he's restarting his system froze. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna devotees. I think Prabhu's laptop got stuck and he's restarting it and he's rejoining.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. Somehow, just at that moment, it froze. So, okay. I think that was a sign from Krishna to stop. Now, any questions on chapter 16? Next chapter, we get into Bhava Bhakti, which is an entire section, a very long section in of itself. So, any questions now on Raganuga Bhakti? Please unmute yourself if you.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a nice, wonderful session. So, Prabhuji, I have this question. Like you said that we should try to the devotee who are aware of their mood, so they try to serve the devotees who are in the similar mood and take guidance. Like they should be under their shelter rather than thinking to directly serve the Lord. But the question arises that how are we, because we are not at that stage, so how are we going to understand that what is our mood and in which mood we are serving the Lord? So
Yes. So we had mentioned in the previous we had mentioned in the previous class, in the previous lecture, that that our eternal Swarupa, our relationship, is revealed in the heart. That's something that is not automatically attained, but rather it is revealed in the heart. And this revelation is given generally by the spiritual master. And the spiritual master, when we are ready, they will tell us within the heart that this is our Swarupa. And this is why the devotees are, there's not much actually description in the scriptures on these very elevated topics. You'll see Srila Prabhupada, if there's a verse about sadhana, about chanting or something, he'll have a very long purport. And if there's a verse about, something very in terms of developing our eternal mood or something, he'll have a very short purport. You'll see this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is because the more elevated we are, the less explanation is needed. Because the more elevated we are, from within the heart, Krishna guides that devotee. And the devotee knows that, oh, this is my eternal relationship with Krishna. So that relationship is not developed because of some external practice, but it's revealed from within the heart. And this is why that initial point that was being made is that the devotee gets a sense, it's internally been revealed, and then from within the heart, because this is a stage of liberation, one is almost liberated. So Krishna is guiding, and so the devotee has the knowledge from within that I should follow in the footsteps of this particular devotee.
thank you so much, Prabhuji. So it's a long way for us to go. And I think till that point, we need to focus on all the 64 limbs of bhakti. That's what I feel. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Yes, actually, these readings and these descriptions are so nice for that reason, because it actually reminds me that, how far I am from reaching the goal, right? Sometimes, when we're doing nicely in our devotional service, we feel, oh, I'm just there, I just have a little more, advancement to make, and I'll be a pure devotee. But imagine these devotees, they are aware of their relationship with Krishna. And until we're aware of our relationship with Krishna, we haven't even come to the platform of Raganuga Bhakti. And like we'll see next time, after Raganuga Bhakti, then there's Bhava Bhakti. And after Bhava Bhakti, then there's Prema Bhakti. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that to get from Bhava to Prema can even take 1,000,000 lifetimes of devotional service, devotional activities. Of course, by the mercy of the devotees and the Lord, everything is possible. But we should never think that, oh, by my spiritual practice, in a few years, I'll become Prema Bhakta. Even millions of lifetimes it may take. But by mercy, it's possible. So therefore, that mercy, how valuable it is. So Raganuga is a stage of spontaneous devotion, but remember, it is still part of sadhana. It is still devotional service in practice. It is not devotional service in perfection. When we realize our eternal relationship, we are still practicing until we come to the stage of bhava, and that's fully matured. So how young we are in our spiritual life, how small we are, how far we have to go. Like Srila Prabhupada, or I once actually heard Sachidananda Maharaj saying this. He said that if we're chanting and there's not even any feelings of tears coming down our eyes, what to speak of tears, we're not even able to concentrate on the chanting, then we should genuinely feel that what advancement do I have? What advancement have I made that I'm chanting the holy name and there's no feeling? What to speak of feeling? Well, if I had feeling, then I'd be able to concentrate on my chanting. But there's no feeling. That means there's very little love. And if there's very little love, then where's the advancement? So until we are actually relishing the holy name, we should never feel that we've become a very advanced devotee. Like Lord Chaitanya said, that unless there's tears flowing down our eyes when we're chanting, we must understand we are still, our heart is as hard as a iron piece. It's as hard as stone. Lord Chaitanya said this. Only when it's soft, only when we are able to chant nicely is the heart soft. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Such beautiful points to ponder over. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna, for sharing.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Mataji. Devanshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
These sessions, I look forward to it very much. And I don't know, even just by communicating the feelings, I do get tears in my eyes. And I love these topics, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up time, but
No.
I noticed the verse, it said, cause of Raganuga. Some call this type of devotion pushti marg. So is this the pushti marg, that the actual pushti marg that we're referring to, or is just the term?
Pushti means grace. So pushti marg can refer to the path of grace. And that's why, just to emphasize this point, how important it is, here is being said that this is the path of grace. Without grace, we cannot get this spontaneous love for Krishna. Without grace, we cannot realize our eternal relationship with Krishna. Vallabhacharya also taught the path of grace. So that's also what he focused on, but the terms are being used in different contexts. Because in Vallabhacharya's sampradaya, it's called Pushti Marg, but even in his sampradaya, they also practice sadhana before Raganuga. It's not like they're directly at Raganuga. And here, Pushti Marg is specifically referring to Raganuga Bhakti, or the path of spontaneous love. So, yes, here it's not referring to the Pushti Marg of Vallabhacharya, but it's interesting that Vallabhacharya also calls his path the path of grace.
Wonderful. Thank you for that clarification. And my second question is, how do we overcome the feeling of like offense? There is always like a fear of offense, like whatever service we're trying to deliver is like, I don't know, for some reason I have like this huge drop in my stomach that I'm not doing this right, and I am offending devotees, or even like when you mentioned about doing archana, I'm always in the fear of like I'm causing an offense, and that
Mm.
like stops me from doing the service sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we are conscious and uh, afraid of this. There's also a verse of Prahlad Maharaj, which he says that I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of this material world. I'm not afraid of the Kumbhipaka hell. But he tells Lord Nrsingadev that I'm afraid of offending your devotee. That's my only fear. Because everything else I can handle, but the reaction of offending a devotee is so severe. So so that is a good feeling, and we should maintain that. At the same time, we should understand that offense is when we're motivated by envy, jealousy, and greed, and when our motivation in dealing with a devotee is we're acting out of envy, conscientiously, making a plan to destroy the devotee, to pull him down, to uh, to annihilate them. That is actual offense. If we make some offense like a misunderstanding, or forget to give someone a laddu, but it's not done intentionally, like, then it's not an offense, even though someone may be offended, but it's not any serious offense. In my own spiritual life, and from what I've seen others also, I actually have noticed that the offense comes when a person systematically tries to just develops this idea that this devotee is bad, and tries to systematically attack that devotee. Disagreements happen, and even in our service we must disagree in order to do the right thing at times. But that's not exactly offense. Offense is when we're motivated out of envy, not motivated out of just the desire to do something different or a difference of opinion. But when we're motivated, when devotees become really fixated on another devotee, and they just want to, like you see on the internet, they want to annihilate a devotee, a swami or guru, and just ruin their reputation, and or not even on that level, even a small devotee, they just want to see that devotee off the face of the earth. Then that's offense. So offense is not just a misunderstanding, and that's why we don't have to be so afraid of messing up in our day-to-day dealings, in terms of forgetting to do something, like you mentioned, archana, seva aparad. We forget to wash our hands nicely. Those are aparad, and we need to try to avoid them, and we'll get some small indication from Krishna through something to do it properly. But the real ones that are troublesome for our devotion is when a devotee develops an attitude of blasphemy towards another devotee. So that's the thing. So both things are there. We should be very cautious of this. At the same time, we cannot be too afraid, because Krishna is in the heart, and he knows our motivation, that our motivation is to serve the Lord, and in that service there's some disagreements. Your profile picture is very nice. I must just you're holding Kadamakanana Maharaj's book. Are you standing next to Samadhi, or
No, this was we just started our Gordon Parikram. So this was on the day of Maharaj's Samadhi. So we had just attended the Samadhi, and we started our Gordon Parikram. And I don't know, for some reason I felt like Maharaj was with us, and he was kind of like guiding us through. And I was just reading the book, and I was just seeing the Govardhan Parakram with his lens. But thank you for explaining that so beautifully. Um, I don't know, my chanting, I feel like the quality of chanting, it's diminished. And after hearing the Raga Nuga Bhakti, I feel like I'm so back to square one when I started like 10, 20 years ago. And what to speak of millions of lifetimes. So it's just and I feel like maybe it is part of like, I don't know, offense, and I don't know how to overcome that. And the feeling, it's always there, and it just prevents you. So how to overcome that feeling?
That feeling. So sometimes we have, we even if we haven't done offense, we have that feeling, and we have that mood, and that's why it's always nice to check, with the devotee. Sometimes just sending a small note and saying to that devotee, if we have some feeling in our heart, is um, uh, just recently, actually, this happened with me. That if I offended you in any way, please forgive me, and um, uh, I really respect you, and I really appreciate you, and just sending that note solves it. So some practical steps can be taken, but then furthermore, I mean, even devotees who are not actively engaged in offenses, they have difficulty concentrating their mind during japa. So your difficulty in concentrating your mind on japa doesn't necessarily mean that you have offended someone or offended the Lord in terms of seva prad. It can also just be that by not being attentive in our chanting, we're offending the holy name. Because remember, the 10th offense is to be inattentive while chanting. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. That's sort of the 11th offense. So we have to keep trying. In other words, we have to, first of all, we have to chant. We have to do our 16 rounds. And then we have to chant with an effort to concentrate, which is very hard to do. It takes a lot of time. It's interesting we're having this discussion, but just a week ago, His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj was here, and I was asking him, I said, the same question that you're asking, that after many, many years of chanting, still there's no taste, Maharaj. What's wrong? Why are we not getting the taste? And he said, it's been 55 years. I've been chanting 55 years, and I'm still endeavoring to develop that taste. So practice makes a person perfect. And Prabhupada, in one place, he says that if we chant our 16 rounds nicely, then Krishna will not allow us to fall down. He'll help us. If we are on the path of offense or something, if we are on the path of doing something wrong, he'll stop us because we did our chanting. So he's giving his protection. So it's not just that to chant nicely, we need to give up offense, but if we chant nicely, we will also give up offense. You see, it's both ways. By chanting nicely, we get the inspiration, the knowledge of how to avoid the offense. And by avoiding the offense, we're able to chant nicely. So it's always like this in spiritual life. It's both. It's a practice, and it's a mercy, and then it's also our effort. We have to conscientiously also make the effort of avoiding offenses. And then by doing that, we improve our chanting. And by chanting nicely, then we avoid the offenses. So, but it really starts with chanting the 16 rounds. Because when we chant those 16 rounds, then Prabhupada says, I'll protect you. And with his protection, we're able to get inspiration from within our heart. And that inspiration guides us on what to do in different situations. Just like you're feeling the presence of Kadamba Kanana Maharaj when you're doing this parikrama, right? Because you're in the dham and it's his day of samadhi. The presence is coming in your heart. And like that, every day it's like that. If we're chanting, then the presence of the spiritual master, in our case, Prabhupada, or our spiritual master, becomes manifest in the heart.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu. I'm sorry, I'm elaborating a little more, but I don't know, my mind is fixated on the fact that it should take only certain amount of time for us to finish round. And sometimes it takes me 20 minutes to chant one round. And tears are there. I'm not really sure if those are the tears of like Ragadokti, or maybe like where my life was and now where it is right now. I don't know. I cannot differentiate. But maybe I think you're right. Maybe my chanting is inattentive, unknowingly, and that's what is like giving me that feeling that I shouldn't be. And I guess I just need to continue like pushing through and working on whatever it is. But I think quality chanting is very important, and that's what I'm struggling with the most right now.
Yeah, no, it's important that we are you can say like chanting the rounds in a like in 7-8 minutes. It's very helpful because then we can keep up the 16 rounds. If the round takes too long, then it's hard to complete the 16 rounds. And also, life doesn't wait for us, right? So we also need to get things done, and you have 2 children, and there's so much to do. So one thing that helps me is the iPhone, right? The iPhone can be used in Krishna services, putting a timer on. So like every 7 minutes it beeps, and so no, okay, my round should have been done. So it kind of like gets me moving again, and I start to chant again. Okay, it's been 7 minutes. I've only done half a round. So then a good round can take 7 minutes. So then in 3 minutes, then I'll complete it, and it'll take 10 minutes. So we can try different techniques. These techniques are not going to bring love of God, but the techniques can help us in our chanting. Another nice technique is to, if you have a printout or on your computer screen or phone screen, you have the mantra written, that as you chant, you can read the mantra. Because especially in modern society, we're very visual people. So I've noticed that by seeing the mantra while you're chanting, by reading it, it's much easier to concentrate on the words. So like this, different techniques can be utilized in the service of chanting.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing the techniques. I absolutely enjoy and looking forward to this session every week. So please accept my humble obeisances. And again, thank you for inspiring us week after week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for being so inspirational. And is that your mother standing next to you?
That is correct, yes.
Yes. She looks just like your daughter, and she's very wonderful. First time I'm seeing her, so thank you. Yes.
Well, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other final comments, questions? Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. The next chapter, as I mentioned, it's a Bhava Bhakti, a very long and very deep chapter. So I think we need a fresh day for that chapter. I want to also come back to chapter by chapter. So if you haven't completed your homework until chapter 16, please complete it. And next time we'll start chapter 17. It's a long chapter, so you can start reading it. Yeah, so it's a big one. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.